ADHD. About 5% of adults worldwide have ADHD, making it one of the most commonly diagnosed mental disorders. The condition comes down to dopamine, the brain chemical tied to reward and motivation. In ADHD brains, attention doesn't stay fixed. It bounces constantly, scanning for whatever feels most stimulating. This creates a strange contradiction. Struggle with boring things, but laser-like focus for things that trigger genuine interest. And that hyper-focus is where the advantages emerge. Emergency room doctors, stock traders, journalists on deadline, and startup founders. These roles attract people whose brains need high stakes and fast-moving problems. A 2018 study found that 29% of entrepreneurs show ADHD traits, 6 times the rate in the general population. Richard Branson credits the condition with helping him spot opportunities others don't see. The pattern shows up in creative fields too. ADHD brains generate ideas rapidly, make unusual connections, and avoid getting trapped in conventional thinking. Advertising, product design, and entertainment pull heavily from this population. But there are trade-offs. Routine tasks feel painful. Follow-through on low-interest work suffers. Time blindness makes chronic lateness almost unavoidable. This is a brain built for exploration, not repetition. It struggles in environments designed for steady, predictable output. But put it somewhere uncertain, fast-moving, and full of new problems to solve, and it comes alive. Autism. Roughly 1 in 100 people have autism. The stereotype focuses on social awkwardness and rigid routines, but it misses what autistic brains actually do well: detect patterns that are invisible to everyone else. This can show up early. The kid who memorizes train schedules, notices when one book on a shelf has moved, or sorts objects by subtle differences nobody else cares about. That same capacity, in adulthood, can become super valuable. Some big companies like Microsoft and JP Chase run dedicated hiring programs specifically targeting people with autism because these employees can outperform in roles requiring precision and attention to detail. Quality assurance, cybersecurity analysis, data science, air traffic control. These fields reward brains that register what others skip over. The ability to hold complex systems in mind, spot anomalies instantly, and maintain focus for hours on end without burning out is rare. Employees with autism often become the person everyone consults when something doesn't add up. What gets labeled obsessive interests in childhood often becomes deep expertise in adulthood. The teenager who knows everything about trains becomes the logistics engineer. The kid fixated on weather patterns becomes the climate scientist. Social situations might drain energy, and unexpected changes might cause distress. Autism represents a different way of thinking, one that processes details at a depth most people never reach. Depression. Over 280 million people worldwide experience depression. Most assume it's some kind of dysfunction, like their brain failing to feel good. But research suggests something more complicated is happening. People in mild depressive states sometimes see reality more accurately than everyone else. Psychologists call this depressive realism, the rose-colored thinking that helps most people function. Thoughts like, things will work out, or I'm above average, fades during depression. What remains is a clearer, harsher view of how things actually are. This accuracy can help in certain professions. Risk analysts, insurance underwriters, safety inspectors, and quality controllers. These roles benefit from minds that don't default to, it'll probably be fine. The depressed brain identifies problems others dismiss, resists overconfidence, and asks uncomfortable questions that might prevent disaster. There's also a connection to creative work. Writers, musicians, and artists who produce emotionally resonant work often draw from their own dark periods. The tendency to dwell, while painful, forces a level of reflection that cheerful minds can skip over. Some of history's most celebrated art came from people who understood suffering firsthand. Of course, none of this makes depression good. The pain is significant, and it's important to seek treatment if you can. However, the depressed mind may be processing something important, noticing what optimism can't see, and producing depth that lighter moods can't access. OCD. OCD, or obsessive-compulsive disorder, affects around 2% of the population. Living with it can feel like being trapped with a smoke detector that won't shut off. Intrusive thoughts trigger rituals of checking, counting, cleaning, arranging, anything to quiet the noise. That same detection system, when aimed at something useful, can become a super strength. Surgery, forensic accounting, pharmaceutical quality control, nuclear safety inspection, and legal contract review. These types of fields are full of people whose brains physically won't let errors slide. The internal drive toward rightness that makes OCD exhausting can also produce meticulous work. I don't know about you, but I want my surgeon to have attention to detail and triple-check everything about their work. An editor who can't stop noticing inconsistencies produces cleaner copy. The forensic accountant whose brain screams when numbers don't balance finds the fraud buried in spreadsheets. Many people with OCD describe learning to redirect rather than suppress. Instead of checking door locks repeatedly, that vigilance gets channeled into catching bugs in code or errors in legal documents. The compulsion is important for the job. The difficult part is when checking serves nothing, when the brain demands rituals that waste time without producing value. As stressful as it can be, proper support can help separate useful vigilance from pointless loops. What matters is finding something worth obsessing over. Insomnia. Chronic insomnia affects roughly 10% of adults. Staring at the ceiling for hours on end, constantly trying new sleeping positions, nothing but thoughts in the quiet of night while the rest of the world sleeps. Throughout human history, somebody always had to stay awake. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies show that at any given moment, at least one person in a group was naturally alert. Staggered sleep patterns meant constant protection. The light sleeper who woke at every sound served as the night watch. And those dreaded late hours have produced remarkable things. Writers who work at 3 a.m. because the world finally shuts up. Scientists who describe breakthroughs that arrived in the space between failed attempts at sleep. Franz Kafka wrote almost exclusively at night. So did Marcel Proust. The mind that refuses to power down sometimes generates ideas that daytime thinking never reaches. Many insomniacs eventually stop fighting and start using the hours. The time becomes productive. Reading, thinking, creating, working on problems that need silence and solitude. What felt like a curse becomes a private window of uninterrupted focus that most people never experience. Chronic sleep loss takes a toll on the body. There's no way around that reality. But the brain that stays alert when others can't keep their eyes open has always served a purpose. Anxiety. About 4.4% of people currently live with clinical anxiety disorders, and roughly 29% of people will experience anxiety at some point in their lives. The worry starts before anything happens. The body tenses, the mind races through scenarios, and threats that may never arrive feel completely real. What's actually happening is a threat detection system running on high sensitivity. The anxious brain simulates dangers constantly, preparing for problems before they materialize. Exhausting to live with, yes, but it also produces people who are exceptionally well prepared. Project managers, compliance officers, event planners, airline pilots, anesthesiologists. These roles attract people with baseline worry that others might call excessive. They catch risks early, prepare for problems everyone else dismisses, and think 3 steps ahead as a default setting. Research shows moderate anxiety actually improves performance on high-stakes tasks. It keeps people sharp when carelessness would be a big problem. The physical symptoms can be difficult. Tight chest, racing heart, stomach in permanent knots. The mental loop of what if can consume entire days. Sleep can suffer. Relaxation can feel impossible. But that same system, pointed at actual problems, produces some of the most thorough, careful, and reliable people in any organization. The person who worries about everything is often the person who catches everything. Mania. During a manic episode, sleep feels optional. Ideas arrive faster than they can be captured, and confidence soars past normal limits. Projects that would take months get launched in days. It's unsustainable, but while it lasts, the output can be amazing. The connection between manic energy and achievement is well documented. A significant number of successful entrepreneurs describe periods of intense productivity that sound a lot like hypomania. Sleeping 4 hours, working constantly, feeling absolutely certain of success. The same traits that can derail a life can also launch a company. Roles like salespeople, founders, performers, campaign managers, and creative directors reward the kind of energy and confidence that more measured minds might struggle to access. The willingness to take big swings, pitch crazy ideas, and power through obstacles often comes from brains that don't recognize normal limits. That said, it will all come to an end at some point. Mania often leads to reckless decisions, burned relationships, and punishing lows when the episode ends. Without medication and firm boundaries, the costs can pile up fast. The ups and downs can be exhausting, but managed carefully, that surge represents something uncommon, special even, a capacity for output, conviction, and bold action that cautious minds simply don't produce. The challenge is capturing what the highs create without being destroyed by what follows. Dyslexia. About 10% of people have dyslexia. Letters rearrange themselves, spelling feels like a foreign language, and school systems built around text become daily torture. Dyslexic brains aren't bad at thinking like some people might believe. They're processing information through alternative pathways. Brain imaging reveals that dyslexic people use different neural circuits. They tend to struggle with decoding symbols but excel at spatial reasoning, three-dimensional thinking, and connecting ideas that seem unrelated. They often grasp entire systems at once, seeing how pieces fit together before they can explain the individual steps. Dyslexic people are overrepresented among architects, engineers, entrepreneurs, and graphic designers. The same mind that couldn't parse sentences in third grade often might be good at visualizing buildings, understanding mechanical systems, or spotting market gaps nobody else sees. School can be difficult, of course, especially in traditional schools that treat reading speed as intelligence. Many dyslexic kids spend years believing they're stupid. But dyslexia represents a different kind of brain wiring, one built for spatial reasoning, problem-solving, and seeing connections that normal thinkers overlook entirely. Bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder affects around 46 million people globally. The cycle can feel like being strapped to a ride with no controls, weeks of crushing lows giving way to days, or weeks of electric highs, then back down again, up and down over and over. Those extremes access mental states that most people never experience. The low phases force deep reflection, sometimes uncomfortably deep. The high phases unlock creativity and confidence that even-keeled minds can't reach. Together, they create a range that produces both difficulty and remarkable insight. The link between bipolar disorder and creative achievement appears consistently in research. Artists, writers, composers, and visionaries show up on the bipolar spectrum at rates far above the general population. Vincent van Gogh painted with manic intensity during high periods, producing masterpiece after masterpiece, then couldn't work at all during the lows. The instability that makes life hard also seems to open creative channels that stable minds can't access. Many people with bipolar disorder learn to work with their cycles rather than against them. High-energy periods get reserved for ambitious projects. Low periods become time for rest and planning. The swings grow somewhat predictable, and life gets built around them. Relationships strain, careers stumble, and health deteriorates without proper management. But understood and managed, bipolar offers access to depths and heights that flatline stability never touches. If you enjoyed this video, consider becoming a channel member. Your support directly helps us create more videos like this. Thank you for watching.